Cheyenne Dakota Williams is a Diné poet originally from Virginia. Her poems have appeared in Yellow Medicine Review, Saw Palm, Florida Literature and Art, Poetry Magazine, Chapter House Journal, and anthologized in Beyond the Glittering World, an anthology of Indigenous feminisms and futurisms. She is an AWP Tribal Colleges and Universities Fellow and winner of the 2025 Frederick Bock Prize. Her work has also received support from Elk Rivers Writers Workshop, McCormack Writing Center, and the Voices for the West Writing Workshop. Thank you so much, Cheyenne, for being here. And everyone, please give a warm welcome, and you may go ahead and start your reading.
Okay. Hi. So this first poem I'm going to read is Heritage Diner, and it's the poem published in Poetry Magazine. Heritage Diner. At the diner, three little Indians sit horizontally to each other at the bar seats. Two from Shiprock who have known each other sit left and right. The only one, not from the res, sits in the middle. They are facing the kitchen as they watch the food being cooked on the stove. One of the Shiprock girls recounts in familiarity her job at the chapter house cooking for the elderly. The girl not from the res has never worked like that before, and instead recalls the time her mother left the res right out of high school and worked fast food at KFC at 5 a.m. each morning. Among the chatter of a busy diner, she hears Fleetwood Mac and tells the two Shiprock girls of a now defunct restaurant back in the 80s called Flaky Jake's, which is just like Fuddruckers, only they got to survive. Anyways, around the afternoon, when there was nobody, Elton John's I Guess That's Why They Call It the Blues would start to play, and now when that song comes on, that's all her mother thinks of is working during those mundane hours of the day in cheaper Tempe, Arizona. Shiprock Girl tells the Not-So-Res Girl that one day she would like to open a cafe on her family's land, with the orchards and all the pretty scenery too. Not-So-Res Girl wonders if it's hard to start a business on the res, because nothing seems to last that long there anyways, or maybe because nobody seems to have money these days. They have money, Shiprock Girl exclaims. Not-So-Res Girl watches the hash browns and omelets cook on the stove and thinks about how, when her mother was pregnant with her older brother, she met her mother-in-law for the first time standing by the stove, telling her how young she was and that she should have done a little bit more with her life. So then Not-So-Res Girl asked the Shiprock girls how they would like to be 22 and pregnant with a man 10 years older than them. They are not sure what to say. Being at the Wayback Diner reminds Not-So-Res Girl of the signs that read "Whites Only" during the Jim Crow days that her grandmother lived through, and how one day she went in one and came out with the wrong order for her colored cousin. She tells her that she was lucky that she could even go in there and order food for her in the first place, and to just eat the food anyways. She was passing if you couldn't see by now. The three little Indians begin to eat their food that is finally ready now, except Not-So-Res Girl is having trouble finishing her food as fast as the Shiprock girls are eating theirs. Instead, she just sits there and decides to take the leftovers back with her. Perhaps she wasn't as hungry as she thought she was, and instead just needed to be reminded of something she hadn't thought of in a while. Thank you. And this next poem, also published in poetry, is called How to Be a Drunk Indian. At the drive-through line at Taco Bell, in a parking lot in Shiprock, I look out from the back seat and see like 6 drunk Indians all sitting together. They are waving their arms all at each other, and I sort of want to see a fight happen because I am desperate for cheap action. I look out the window on the right and see another one lying in the bushes, who then gets up and turns around to take a piss. My mother, my auntie, and I judge them from inside the car. Have they no shame? Don't they have a family? Surely they could be at home. I'm pretty sure some of them are fathers. We pull up and begin ordering while I look back and see the pissing Indian join the other Indians, and suddenly one of the drunks punches the pisser, and he falls over on the pavement, and I start to laugh in the car, only for the two to get up and hug it out. We pull around the Taco Bell, and then we are blocked from their view, much to our annoyance. I wonder aloud what some of these white people passing through think when they see us like that, all drunk. My auntie tells me that a lot of them think that we just drink and are drunk all the time. Well, they can think that we're drunks all they want, while I think some of them are trashy. Because how are you white and poor on land you stole and claim to have conquered? Anyone can say anything about anyone and still have it all wrong. We get our food, and my auntie tells my mom to do a drive-by real slow by the drunk Indians this time. One of the Indians waves at us, and I am bewildered by this palm action, as my auntie waves back, and my mother, with the windows rolled down, tells them to be safe. I mumble quietly to no one to maybe stop drinking. Thank you. And then this next poem I'm going to read is called Founders Day, and it's a Sestina poem. Founders Day. It's the same damn thing each year. Another pioneer-bred tradition where the latter-day thread-ending transplants come together and stand to commemorate destined bicentennial prairie heritage spirit. Settler families exiled from their envisioned Zion went and found this land and said, "This is the place," ending their cholera white wagon ride. No one hardly ever mentions that this is the land of my ancestors. This is the place, the vast desert wasteland where my ancestors live. This barren wasted land where we band together in tradition through a series of raids through forts, posts, and villages, attempting to write out the generals, colonels, prophets, and missionaries from statehood and beyond that stand in our unimpeded way. The aftermath is a mythos of Yellowstone, where we're now found in the alternative Pendleton pattern to uphold the Western spirit. And now the parade is about to begin to commemorate the massacred spirit. Among the commotion of the spectators, I can still hear my ancestors' screams, where each night I return to the place where the bounty found us along the reddened war trails and created a rogue splattered tradition and ripped the grief from our hair. The blood underneath where I stand, I cannot afford to escape the genocide they say is my imagination's ride, but for $40 I can get inside the fair. Why don't you go on a ride? Get over the past and quit complaining. I could never get into the holiday spirit. I tried looking at the vendors, but it's just the banks and churches that stand in the corner with their sponsorship grins. If only this was a flea market. My ancestors gave me cousins, and each week we get our snow cones and beadwork. This tradition cannot be understood through funnel cakes and charities. No, it cannot be found. And my love, my Native American lover, or so I thought. Well, I found him swaying and dangling his brains and stomach on a pendulum ride. I keep telling him to get off, but he tells me that it's an honor and tradition to lose one's mind and sanity in the name of the settler colonial spirit. He cannot hear me remind him of the treaty where settlers turned his ancestors into citizens. Whatever. He belongs to the Americana blonde at the cotton candy stand. It's getting crowded, and I'm getting dizzy, and I don't think that I can stand for much longer. I need a cool patch of land to rest upon, but all I found was the hot tar where the parade paved over where my ancestors walked. Another relocation trail decorated into a horse and hayride. Somewhere between stupor and syncope, I want to lay down my spirit and cast myself out of this unsettled tradition. And when I'm ready to stand again, I will ride out to where they found the body of my spirit last year, recovering the tradition of my ancestors. Thank you. And this next poem is titled Imprint, and it's published in Beyond the Glittering World. Imprint. You greeted the lightning in your language, and all I could think about was how I was taught to run away from these things, to evade the percussion of thunder with tetrad utters for reasons that are still unknown. I seem to have inherited a maternal neurosis in which my lineage states matriarchs must uphold tradition. I do not say this in good providence, for I can't think of an ancestress whom I truly admire. Despite my best efforts to endure flames, sparks enrode the parts of my soul faltering against an extinguished future. Can you blame me? It starts on the count of 3. My adobe heart believed your tribal endonym would indicate an instinctive appellation, that perhaps the domain of your quinnate shores could harbor my maroon flames, a salve for my desert droughts. I'm envious of those that can manage their vernacular. My throat is too meek. Won't you kiss me into fluency? My guttural palate was scrubbed clean into a repressed leash. Your dialect fascinates me, so I search for the flavor of words down your throat. My hair will grow longer, and I'll wear an updo in homage to women in a picture I saw, a glimpse you will never get. I'll drink the cordial brew harvested on the side of highways, the herbs boiling on the stove, and I will finally tell you what the taste meant. It was the repulsion of your kiss. The foggy fragrance rolled me into its reproach. A broom of ruminations cupped me that all that I have lost. More pours out tomorrow. My tongue blistered from each acrid sip, as my throat spit out the last of your bitter residue. Thank you. So this next poem is the one published in Chapter House Journal titled Wishless. Do I have enough jewelry? Because I want huge turquoise cuffs that shackle my little wrists. I want malachite, coral, spiny oyster, kingman, and mother of pearl inlaid for each of my tiny fingers. I want the biggest beaded round hoops, the longest dangling dentalium, colossal Zuni cluster studs pricked at needlepoint through my bleeding ears. I want to strain my neck on a tumbled bubble chain, harvest a squash blossom along my bosom, bone pipe choker horizontal on my throat and vertical at my breast. I want a full set of custom coordinated stones that are 925 coated to decorate the starkness of my bronze, as the silversmith hardens away with hammer and flame, commissioned to fit the client. The jewels wrapped around me and closed like a woman carved into a cabochon cameo. I want to own something engraved. Thank you. And this next poem is going to be published next week in Horizon Review, which is based out of Albuquerque. And it's titled, Like Any Other Day in Farmington. Like any other day in Farmington, I will eat menudo at Si Senor and spend the rest of my life glancing over at the wooden table we sat at when we took Shimasani here, her lips puckered at the end of a hot spoon or the sip of her mug. I've learned to wait it out for sopapillas, my hands sticky in a vicious drizzle of honey. If I'm here on a Sunday, somehow I manage to beat the church crowd, and if Shema asks what made me stop going to church, I will give her 3 words, all of it, and walk out the restaurant as the congregation stands around the parking lot in black. Every mourner pays their respects at the table. I'll head over to Buffalo Wild Wings instead, and join my old roommates as they speak of their own losses. I listen to Maria talk about how no one is at her father's grave this year, and I think of a grave down whispering pines that I have never visited, and then I think of another grave at a veterans cemetery that I never returned to in New Jersey to put flowers on. All this talk about family has made me realize my complexion looks like an only child. I wish I was an only child. I think I'd be better off that way. My wound is alive and open and breathing somewhere, that I'm apprehensive of what a reunion could close or admit. Instead, I walk around what's left of the Animas Valley Mall, but I never reach the other side where they sealed up the bankrupt spirit of Sears. I'm convinced spirits can be conjured up in the women's department of JCPenney if you dial up deactivated phone numbers at checkout. I'll attempt to grocery shop at Smith's, but I get nauseous in the bathroom stall, trying to remember which Walmart my Minarch emerged from. I walk out into the parking lot a woman and cry during the ride back, while Shade hands me a note of encouragement that I do not keep. I will hold my breath like I was told to before going over the mountains, and eat what is left of the soggy sopapillas in their white paper bags. Thank you. And this next poem is called Coquina. At first I didn't understand it, why I couldn't find any seashells on the hard-packed sands along the coast of Daytona, walking and searching for remnants of the sea, looking to take something that once belonged to a living thing and claim it for myself. This is my idea of discovery. And then, looking out into the distance, I saw a boat floating the line between sea and sky. I began to wonder what the original people who inhabited La Florida, or whatever you want to call it, felt when they saw one for themselves in 1513 or 1565, or whenever contact first came and establishment began. I realized that I didn't know what tribes were to this land, yet I knew the names of the conquistadors and ships and myths that sailed these parts of the world since I was in third grade. A simple web search eases this up for me. It was a Temecula. I emphasize was, since the tribe is extinct. That's an uncommon word to use referring to humans, but we are never given the chance to be one. The way I have a CIB proving my distance between full-blood and half-breed, horse and dog, quarter to none. It all started to make sense. The street name I saw on the road, the overlooked memorial was right there all along. That's when I finally noticed the shells tucked into the sand, which had been molded into fortress walls to withstand cannons from English claim, but you couldn't even tell from the lack of impact. Still, somehow the shells so easily etched an Apache prisoner's dancer after all these years. Something still holds on from those who were displaced and destroyed. Thank you. And this next poem is a pantoum, and it's titled Sager. Protect me from this flame, Sager, my clay heart. This peace I cannot endure, scorched from long ago. Sager, my clay heart, cracked to a fault, scorched from long ago. I wedge your damp heart, mine cracked to a fault, filled by your plastered glaze. Wedging your damp heart, I watched you flicker overnight. Your plastered glaze, a hardened heart now mine. I watched you flicker overnight, leaving your singes short-lived. Your hardened heart, it hurts for me to need. Your singes short-lived in the sagar of my clay heart. Thank you. And this next poem is a Petrarchan sonnet, and it's titled A House on Riverland Drive. There's a house along the river that no one can notice. Acres of land, we drive to your estate that's second-hand and stilted above the shore. You entrapped me with promises of the tunica intact, but this French surname I don't understand. I pluck and crush magnolias with my hands to ignore the moss that my hair amassed. I walk to the river each night in search of the scoots submerged in their nocturnal. You hear my splashes as I wade heap deeper, pulling me out from my propensive lurch as you slap me out of my infernal subconscious. I wake where no one hears. Yeah. And this last poem is titled At the Cliffs of the New State Park. Visitors to Cliffs of the New State Park will get to see a real black bear up close, and they won't have to worry about being attacked. Goldsboro News Argus, March 11, 2014. In the heart's lobby lies a forever dormant black bear, paused upon the living that pass by to make their way out towards the artery's wilderness. The bear has seen this fate happen before, when he tried to wander out onto the interstate until a drive-by ruptured upon his path, bleeding the tracks that were stuffed back inside him and mounted back to where I now stand in that same lobby. I get up close to the lifelike fur, reminded that it is not mine to touch. I shudder to think that somewhere within me lies a breathing bear not yet captured, or to have myself displayed as a reminder of what happens when you go after your desires. The struck chest stops short on the highway. Instead, I offer something of myself to the wilderness that I travel, so that I may be able to return as a complete vessel back to the lobby. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so, so much, Cheyenne. That was such a magical reading. You truly have such a gift with narrative and imagery, and we're so blessed to have that reading. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to talk about your poetry in the Q&A that's going to come up soon. But next up first, I'm happy to introduce our second reader. Elias Udo-Ochi, he, them, is a queer artist and SRHR advocate for key vulnerable populations in Edo State. A Pushcart Prize and Best of the Net nominee, they've received fellowships from the Unserious Collective in 2023 and Poets in Pajamas Fellow in 2024 and 2026. Their poems are the inaugural winner of Agbowo Magazine Editor's Poetry Prize and second place in Death Rattle / Ouroboros Penrose Poetry Prize in 2023. They were finalists in both the Alpine Fellowship Poetry Competition and Black Warrior Review Poetry Contest. They have poems published in Agbowo, the Woodward Review, the Maine Review, and more. There, you can find them at Elias Udo-Ochi on social media. Thank you, Elias, and take it away.
Okay, hi everyone. Okay. Mm. So this first poem is a pantomime of love's tragedy, the sallow of a sunflower as weapon of choice. It was first published in Olumo Review in 2022. I am standing alone in the middle of this poem, fine specimen for the fire whittling at my feet. In an earlier incarnation, I wrote my lover to be morning's light, and by noon, his ashes stayed ringing in the wind. Unbind me, this unsteady love. I give my body to questions the universe will never answer. A star falling, how do I orbit past this pain? This is not the life I chose when I broke the jaws of death to stare at the sun. Dear Earth, ease me into the horrors, proud to pray. This distance drives a nail into our testimony, and I try to imagine the strangers we are becoming, teacups and porcelain cuddles. You love me? You could have held the sun in your hands and I'd be a sunflower. What tragedy to live in this world, shelling body parts for broken souls. Tell me, brother, what fire feeds your joy? Okay, so thank you. So okay. So the next poem um is unpublished. So just bear with me. Okay. Bone Bad Cavalry. I once met a man, the red glow of a monster's eye perched on his fingers. He said he had walked and walked and walked until his feet bled, until he fell through the neck of an hourglass. Do you know what it means to be sand stuck in a storm? To be a fallen leaf carried by shame in this house full of grace. Blessed art thou amongst the fallen leaves, amongst the bloodied blooms of a broken tree. Udo-Odi, Let the wall grow still at the gates of my bones. Let the wall see me and be still. I am the God who made me, the one who gives the knife, the ram, and the gallop of my feet across this desert. Aren't we all a ball of cloud removed from being struck by lightning? My tongue cuts in a whisper about its own demise. When you kneel before a bone-barred cavalry, which tastes better, a burning test for the sacred tongue, or the glory of a blood-nailed feet? Okay, so the next one, just quickly, yeah. Okay. The next one is Collision after Margaret Dana. You mind the quiet of Lagos heat on your balcony, a bronzed statue touched by God's love. We fillet our way around small talk, TV shows, sparkling wine, and neighborly birds, each day nestling into the ember of a growing gift. When a river flows outward, its first witness is the night sky, many fires burning with thirst. A mirror ripples to show you it's half of a broken song, the kissed simulation of our needs unburdened by Earth's gravity. Collision, grayscale, antimatter, where heaven kneels to serenade Earth. Do you see it? Our lives moving past these silent balconies. Do you hear our bodies singing creation's first song? Okay, the next one is the rendering. So it's prefaced by a line from Benga Additional's poem, Grief. My loss is a loss with doors, it opens. That's a line from Benga's poem. Another day at the circus, cute little birds on your teeth, the colors popping, a window, a rendering of flesh to let you in. Our hands in the small rivers of destiny, my loss for craving what's been broken. Paris cast, call it love. The solemn acts of needing to explain away the howling in my bones. My dreams, the cartilage of my nose, the beads holding us hostage. What's left to be broken? Okay, the next one. All I own are these selfies. That's the title. Should I begin with a bold streak of sunshine so the world does not feast on my rainbow? A painting is struck with grief, and all I can say is it breaks out in a cloud of nightingales. On my brow is a sheen of hallelujah, memories wrapped with wings of joy. And with these hands, I cap the accusation drawn in my songs of every sacrifice begotten with blood. T-5, the earth gobbles the last bits of a stray star. Clouds cartwheeling in purposeful animation, and all I own are these selfies. Deep into the waters of my dwelling, I practice breathing with a preached piety. The psychiatrist says I should be quick to mourn, but only the dead things. Who then will mourn for us? Who then will weep for us still here, splicing the air with our dreams and miracles of dead cells? Who will shake the clouds so they partake of our elegies? Who will water the wreaths of our demise? What does it take to carve portraits from headstones and grow funeral flowers off a grave's silence? Should I cut your laughter from this sympathy of ruptured earth, or stop time before this sarcophagi becomes a silhouette? In the dying hum of sunset, I want to live without the colors of my shadows. Lord, I fear I will crumble. the history of my body shred to confetti. Paper sacrificed to the ballet of falling. Okay, okay, just hold on. Okay. So this poem was published by Woodward Review. What burning the air means for a man waiting too long, all that remains of him is dust and shadow. Okay. I hear you can set the air ablaze, watch it dance from your window or phone screen, whichever frames the tragedy of your life. I hear we can turn the carnage up a notch, flower the city square with ash, and leave a shadow in place of a man sipping a copper. What can a body bent on its own demise tell you about living? In my library, a book says dying is personal, unlike war. On the lawn across from where I am buried in the gyrations of a TikToker, a bird sharpens its voice against the wind. Burn, burn, burn wildwood so would stay alive. In the hands of a god, silence can mushroom into a vacuum of misery. See how boughs hinged on trees and a limb flung halfway from its owner tells more about the dead than the sound of air burning away. Okay, okay, I just can just quickly do this on another set, please. Please, a minute, please. Okay, so body mists. I am pondering the warmth of your skin as it demands the intention of a kiss. Something light quivering through our tongues to find the beginning of a wild wind. Cue the dying candlelight and its descent into the last shreds of a painting. A shower of burning things. I see how you waft into the wind and I learn the ritual of ballet dancing. Grief can be a delicately intense arithmetic. Here is the history of many waters, but remind me why the past takes on the color of mist. Okay, I'm going to read Candlelight, which is the inaugural winner of the Agbowo Magazine Editors Prize in 2023. So it's prefaced by a line from Wanasani's poem, Tomorrow is a Place. And the line goes, open quotes, death is a comfort because it says, transform, but don't hurry, end quotes. The first victim is not always our bodies devolving in a rot, not the smudge of daylight eastward or a kite caught in its own device. There are levels to this burning. Earth, its carnage commanding respect from every living thing. With silent toiling, we offer our prayers in earthen jars. I say, break the circle. Sacrifice this oxen, breast barred in the pyre of your tongue. Stand still to the trouble of our hearts breaking. Still death beckons. Here, everything is a speckle. Everything is a chef life. The daddy tarantula whose last scene was a joust at legacy. The key word here is grief, unfoiling, flowers burdened with the assault of seasons, unrelenting. See how the earth turns. This insufferable sphere of eternal gore. your mother, my brother, the flower strangled in its vines. We, never allowed to live past our grief, will follow in its merry, big haze, brown winter, ghosts, then spring, an overture of dead things. Be present, be here, don't hurry, stay, smell the chlorine in the air. I know death lurks in every crevice, in every reach for salvation. We cherish this rain on the sidewalk, ninth already in its first layer of sadness. I picture rain, a desolate dinner table, shadows eating the last of their grief by candlelight. I want to break this circle, spill armies of dreams. You would see I am made to outlive the dust they said will ruin me. Okay, so that was so intense. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, I'm going to read another one, maybe two more. Okay, in a country ready to bleed you dead, after Romeo Oriogun, pray in little spaces wild enough for a dream, and in deep sarcophagi of your body, still remnants flush with heaven. God's beard burning with crystals are the colors for which we are named. A name can be a vilification of colors. In this room primed with intent, a ghost restless in bones still wide with warmth gives their body to nude stares. Say we are at war and mean it. Say you know why we burn into the dark of tarred streets. Blood surging into this room of rainwater. You see, his lover, 3 letters shy of happy, rocked himself to sleep at the bottom of a lake. Friend, they've given us names we do not own. Pray the holes buzzing in your body are enough to house your lover, enough to castle these sieges. Or what say you? We build armories in the clefts of our mouths. Okay, so I'll just do the last one. Oh, okay. Okay. Wild nostalgia. The Dead Rattle and Review Penrose Poetry Prize, second place, 2020. Okay. The man I love is standing beneath the gaze of a crucifix, a hole petrified in his chest, fields of wild nostalgia and bloodshot tulips. Each day I window shop for affection where the decay is constant, where it hugs the clouds and blossom the air with burning. In this verse, I celebrate this cusp of innocence, ready my sickle for heaven's gift, the violet crash of a bird into the desert, into a nest of pyramids, into the iris of God, oceans of stars dying to dance. What the priests do not say, God is the boy who calls into the dream of a lover. A man hides from his ghost in his father's house, a chrysalis unripe for spring, a spark retreating. What is it about our bodies calling for sparks in the dark of our solitude? Homesick ravens picking at the seam of the moon's light. In the end, I will kneel at the eye of a love song, trebles shimmering, desire kicked in the language of a
It looks like we might have lost Elias for a bit. Oop, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, just give a few seconds to see if Elias will be able to hop back on to finish. Let's see. Okay, so Elias is probably just experiencing some internet issues for a bit, so hopefully they'll be able to join us again soon. Um, but yeah, I think that that was coming on. I think that that might have been their last poem too. It's a shame that we got cut off early. And I'll thank Elias again when they're back. But that was such an enchanting reading. So struck by Elias's lyricism. And yeah, I also want to mention that you guys can again find all of um or you can find a lot of Elias's and Cheyenne's work in the chat, in the links that Tondue has dropped. So make sure to go through those and experience their work all over again. But for now, we're going to go ahead and move into the Q&A section. Really excited to talk about the poetry we've heard tonight, and talk about the poets behind the poems. Hopefully, Elias will join and get to also ask him some questions. But we can start off the Q&A and Cheyenne can start off by answering some questions. Yeah. Anyone in the audience have any questions for our poets?
I have a question. So you said that you're wrapping up your program. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you feeling? What's that journey been like? What's coming next? How's it all going?
So I'm currently an undergrad, um, and I'm a writing major. So I mean I've been writing like a little capstone project, but I wouldn't say it's like a complete manuscript. I don't plan on doing grad school within the next year, but I mean, I do plan on just continuing writing and just having poems published and applying for fellowships and workshops. Um, right after graduation, I'll be doing a manuscript intensive with a small cohort led by the poet Jake Skeets for like the next few weeks between May and June. Um, but throughout my school undergraduate career, I've been able to like just experience a lot of workshops like outside of school, and I've been able to like attend conferences, and that's really allowed me to like really grow as a writer and a poet. When I was about to be a junior, like the summer leading to my junior year. That's when my first workshop I applied and got accepted to was Tin House, now called McCormack. Um, but being able to go to all of these different opportunities and events has like really allowed me to meet a lot of other Indigenous writers. Um, And I would say that's where I would say my main community as a writer has been.
Congrats on the capstone and your coming graduation, Cheyenne, and best of luck with all of the amazing stuff you have coming up. You've definitely already accomplished so much, and I know we're all so excited to see where you and your work go.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions to ask Cheyenne right now?
I'll jump in with a question. You have your poem Cigar or Sagar. Do you want to talk more about the meaning behind that poem? And what exactly a Sagar is?
Yeah, so Sagar, I believe it's like it's a lot of like terminology related to like kilns and pottery and that aspect. Um, I can't remember like because I know I wrote the first draft of that poem probably like I want to say over 2 years ago, and I think I was just just looking up words really because I know I wanted to write like a flame type of poem. I kind of have poems with flame imagery, and I remember I think I stumbled across that word, and then I was just coming across like looking it up, and then like for some like the first I just had this phrase like throughout my head before I finally like wrote it down, which was just Sager, my clay heart. And then I think the Pantoum form like really I felt it fit best because it allowed me to like play with repetition and sort of relay different phrases. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of where I guess I got the inspiration to write that poem.
Amazing. Thank you so much for walking us through that very beautiful poem. Anyone else have questions they want to throw in?
Yeah, I kind of have a question. Uh, what are you excited about creating now? Like, is there a poem that you're revisiting or trying to work on? I don't know. I guess what makes you excited right now as a poet?
So I guess a lot of the work that I have right now that's like currently published or being published, a lot of it is like inspired by landscape and memory in like the Southwest. Being a Diné person, and in being in the Four Corners area, there's like a lot of places on the Navajo Nation, and even just like in urban cities within the Southwest. Um, I think for me, like the Southwest is just an inspiration. It'll like always sort of be an inspiration, like just memories of like family, or just uh, places I visited growing up. My connection to different places and land. But I'm sort of seeing myself now wanting to write more about like malls and just sort of like my love for like pop culture and shopping. I'm sort of young, so I guess my things that interest or excite me, I guess, are influenced by me being rather young. And I would say the poet Tei Tibble, who's a more Maori poet, I like a lot of her. She has two collections, Pocahontas and Rangakira. Um, and the way that she kind of writes about like just being an urban Maori woman, like that's kind of where I want to go like that's the direction I kind of want to start going now with my writing, um, and just uh, really just being young and just having fun and the current memories now I'm making with people. But it's yeah, mostly I would say mostly landscape and memory are like the main two like things that excite me in writing.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Cheyenne. And it looks like we also managed to get Elias back. Elias, are you here with us? Is your connection good?
Hi. Oh, apologies.
No, no worries.
Okay, so my network dipped and yeah, I was able to get it back on. So I don't know, did we get
I think that you were reading the last poem you had, and we got cut off somewhere where you were reading it. We're not sure exactly how much longer you had to go. So if you'd like to reread your last poem, and then hop in into, we've been doing our Q&A. So after you reread your last poem, you can hop in and our audience can ask you any questions if that sounds good.
okay?
Elias is frozen again. Hopefully, it'll come back soon.
Oh no. I mean, it's fair. Elias, it's like 1 a.m. where Elias is at right now. We should all
Yeah,
give them some grace because they're in the middle of the night, staying up to read for us.
definitely.
Um, I'll ask one more question to Cheyenne to see if he joins back just yet. But I want to ask about your form. You tend to have more longer form poems, which I absolutely love. I'm a big fan of. I want to know if it was intentional or intuitive.
Yeah, I think I kind of just started like I guess I sort of just became more writing narrative type of poems. Um, I guess I like to explore narrative in my writing, and then I um, I like sestinas and I like Petrarchan sonnets. Um, I mean, I guess I like Italian poetry forms, but yeah, so like those, I do like those types of forms, and then I do have like more. I wouldn't really call myself like a visual poet. Like I'm not as experimental, but I think my Heritage Diner poem is one of the more visually experimental works, and that one I was inspired to like write like the how like diner seats are horizontal, so that was kind of how I kind of formed it, I guess, in my head. Um, but yeah, I it's usually it's usually like a narrative or a sestina I'm trying to do or a sonnet. Um, but I mean, I would maybe like one day to explore more experimental and more abstract, but this is kind of just what interests me at the moment.
That's beautiful. What I'll say is that like I'm looking at the Heritage Diner Puma right now, and it actually physically looks like people sitting in a restaurant. Like I mean, because the words are maybe four, like a short phrase for each one, and then I wish I could show it, but it's like a short phrase for each one, and then it's spaced apart. It's really beautiful. I just want to appreciate how much you've done that. Um, yeah, yeah. What's next? What do we do?
Yeah, so it looks like Elias is probably still having internet issues, so I don't think they'll be able to join us for the Q&A. But we'll probably try to invite Elias back to our next reading to reread the last poem, and hopefully he'll be able to join us then. But yeah, I really want to thank both Cheyenne and Elias, who I really wish could still be here, for these extremely wonderful readings. And Cheyenne, thank you for carrying us through this Q&A as well. And everyone in the audience, thank you for attending. And don't forget that you can check out both Cheyenne and Elias's work at the links that have been dropped in the chat. And if you'd like to learn more about our upcoming Poets in Pajamas readings, we encourage you to follow us on social media. This reading series has been created courtesy of Sundress Academy for the Arts, and we also encourage you to follow Sundress Publications on Facebook, Instagram, and Substack to learn more about upcoming in-person readings, residency opportunities, grants for writers, and open submission periods. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you again, Cheyenne and Elias. And we hope to see you all during a future reading.